The morning sun peeked through the blinds of the small apartment, casting thin strips of light across the worn couch where Maya Rodriguez had fallen asleep. She hadn't meant to doze off there, but after coming home from her late shift at Café Lumière, her body had simply given up the fight against exhaustion. The old television was still on, playing infomercials at a low volume. Maya's eyes fluttered open and she groaned at the crick in her neck. Not again, she mumbled, fumbling for her phone to check the time. It was already past 9. Maya shot up, suddenly wide awake. Her afternoon shift started at noon, but she had promised to come in early to help with inventory. 3 years at the same cafe, and she still lived paycheck to paycheck in this tiny one-bedroom apartment with the temperamental heating system. Maya shuffled to the bathroom, catching her reflection in the mirror. Dark circles framed her brown eyes, and her thick black hair was a tangled mess. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to wash away the tiredness. As she brushed her teeth, she hummed a melody her grandmother had taught her years ago, something about moonlight and lost love. The familiar tune brought a small smile to her face. Growing up in a house filled with music, Maya had always assumed she'd follow that path. Her grandmother had been a singer in Cuba before coming to America, and those old songs had been Maya's lullabies. In high school, her choir teacher had pulled her aside, talked about scholarships and music programs. But life had other plans. Her mother got sick, medical bills piled up, and dreams of music school faded away like the last notes of a closing song. Now, at 27, Maya had gotten used to the rhythm of her life. Morning classes at the community college 3 days a week, working at the cafe 6 days, and falling asleep to the thought that someday things would be different. She dressed quickly in black pants and a white button-up shirt, the unofficial uniform of Café Lumière. The cafe sat at the corner of Maple and Fifth, a cozy spot that had somehow survived the invasion of big coffee chains. The owner, Ray Chen, had bought the place 5 years ago and transformed it from a forgettable coffee shop into a neighborhood gem, complete with weekend music performances that attracted a decent crowd. Maya tied her hair into a practical ponytail as she hurried down the 3 flights of stairs to the street below. The autumn air held a pleasant crispness, and she pulled her jacket tighter around herself as she walked the 6 blocks to work. She could have taken the bus, but those few dollars saved added up over time. "Morning, Phoebe," Maya called as she pushed open the back door of the cafe. Phoebe Kim, the head baker, looked up from her work table, dusted with flour and scattered with pastry tools. "You're just in time," Phoebe said, blowing a strand of hair from her face. "Ray's been pacing around all morning. The delivery guys messed up our order again." Maya hung her jacket on the hook by the door and washed her hands. "What are we missing this time?" "The usual. Not enough dairy, too many napkins." Phoebe shrugged, returning to the croissant dough she was rolling out. "Oh, and don't forget we have music tonight. That jazz singer Ray likes, the one with the red hair." Maya nodded, already heading toward the front where she could hear Ray's voice rising with frustration. Ray was a good boss, fair and generous when he could be, but he had a tendency to get worked up over the smallest problems. At 40-something, with salt and pepper hair and laugh lines around his eyes, Ray treated his staff like family, which meant he didn't hold back his emotions. "Maya, thank goodness," Ray exclaimed when he saw her. "Please tell me you can stay late tonight. Zoe called in sick and we're going to be packed." Maya had been planning to study for her business management exam, but the pleading look in Ray's eyes and the thought of extra tips made the decision for her. "Sure, I can close." Relief washed over Ray's face. "You're a lifesaver. Seriously, what would I do without you?" The question hung in the air as Maya began counting the cash in the register. What would any of them do without each other? That was the thing about Café Lumière. It wasn't just a workplace. It was a patchwork family of people who had somehow found each other in the vast city. The morning passed in a blur of inventory sheets and coffee beans. By noon, the cafe had opened and Maya moved to the front, taking orders and serving food with practiced efficiency. The lunch rush brought in the usual crowd. College students with laptops, business people on quick breaks, and a few regulars who came as much for the conversation as for the coffee. "The usual Dr. Thompson?" Maya asked the elderly professor who came in every Friday. He smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling behind round glasses. "You know me too well, my dear. And how are your classes going?" Maya placed a ceramic mug under the espresso machine. "Slowly but surely. 1 more year until my degree." Persistence is the key to success, Dr. Thompson said, sliding his money across the counter. Your hard work will pay off. Maya smiled, hoping he was right. As the afternoon stretched on, she found herself watching the clock more often. Friday nights were always busy, especially when they had live music. The jazz singer, Vivian something or other, had performed at the cafe several times before, always drawing a good crowd. Maya enjoyed those evenings, even with the extra work. There was something special about the atmosphere when music filled the space. It reminded her of better times. By 6 o'clock, the cafe had transformed. The overhead lights were dimmed, candles flickered on each table, and the small stage in the corner was set up with a microphone and minimal equipment. Regular tables had been rearranged to face the performance area, and Ray had added a few high-top tables at the back to accommodate more customers. Have you seen Vivian? Ray asked, appearing suddenly at Maya's side as she arranged wine glasses behind the counter. She was supposed to be here at 5 for a sound check. Maya shook her head. Haven't seen her. Did you try calling? Ray held up his phone. Straight to voicemail. I've got a bad feeling about this. The worry lines on Ray's forehead deepened as the minutes ticked by. At 6:30, with customers already filling the tables and ordering pre-show drinks, Ray's phone finally rang. Maya watched as his expression shifted from relief to disbelief. What do you mean you can't make it? The show starts in an hour. Ray's voice rose, drawing glances from nearby tables. He stepped into the back room, but Maya could still hear fragments of the conversation. None of it good. When Ray emerged, his face had gone pale. Vivian has laryngitis. She can't perform. She can't even speak, apparently. Can you find someone else? Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. It was too late for any professional replacement. Ray ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting around the now-packed cafe. I don't know what we're going to do. We've got a full house expecting a show. The panic in his voice was clear. This wasn't just about one night's entertainment. It was about the cafe's reputation. People had come specifically for the music, had made reservations, had chosen Café Lumière over countless other Friday night options. Disappointing them could mean losing customers for good. Maya continued serving drinks, her mind racing. She could hear snippets of Ray's desperate phone calls in between taking orders. The bartender, Diego, shook his head sympathetically as they passed each other behind the counter. Bad luck, Diego said. Maybe we could just play some recorded music and offer a discount. Maya nodded absently, setting a tray of wine glasses on the counter. As she arranged silverware for a new table, she found herself humming that same tune from this morning, her grandmother's old song. The melody always calmed her when she felt stressed. Wait a minute, Ray's voice cut through her thoughts. He was staring at her with an odd expression. Maya, you can sing. It wasn't a question, but Maya answered anyway. What? No, I mean, not really. Not like this. I've heard you humming around the cafe. You've got a great voice. Ray stepped closer, lowering his voice. Didn't you mention you were in choir or something? In high school, Ray. That was almost 10 years ago. Maya shook her head, already knowing where this conversation was heading. I can't perform in front of all these people. Ray glanced at the crowd, then back at Maya, desperation clear in his eyes. Just one song. That's all I'm asking, just to buy us some time while I figure something out. Maya's heart pounded in her chest. The thought of standing on that stage, all eyes on her, made her stomach twist into knots. She hadn't performed since her high school graduation, and even then, she'd been one voice among many. I don't even have anything to wear, she protested weakly, gesturing at her work clothes, already spotted with coffee stains from the long shift. Lena might have something, Diego suggested, mentioning their co-worker who often brought a change of clothes for after-work outings. She keeps stuff in the staff room. Ray looked at Maya with pleading eyes. I'll pay you extra. Double what you'd make tonight. Please, Maya. Just one song to start us off. The cafe hummed with conversation around them, customers blissfully unaware of the crisis unfolding behind the counter. Maya looked out at the faces, some familiar, some strangers, all expecting a night of music and ambiance that might not happen. She thought of her grandmother, who had sung through good times and bad, who had taught Maya that music was a gift to be shared. What would she say now? Okay, Maya heard herself say before she could change her mind. One song. That's it. Relief flooded Ray's face. You're saving my life, seriously. He squeezed her shoulder. Go get changed. I'll cover your tables. As Maya headed to the staff room, her hands trembling slightly, she wondered if she had just made a huge mistake. But somewhere beneath the anxiety, a small flicker of excitement sparked to life, a feeling she hadn't experienced in far too long. Maya stood in the staff room, staring at the black dress she'd found hanging in Lena's locker. It was simple but elegant, knee-length with cap sleeves and a modest neckline. Nothing flashy, but worlds away from her coffee-stained work clothes. She held it against herself, looking in the small mirror on the wall. This is crazy, she whispered to her reflection. Completely crazy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diego. Hurry up. Ray's running out of small talk with the customers. With a deep breath, Maya quickly changed into the dress. It fit reasonably well, though a bit loose around the waist. She let her hair down from its practical ponytail, running her fingers through the dark waves. Without proper makeup or time to prepare, this would have to do. A knock on the door made her jump. Maya? You okay in there? It was Phoebe, her voice laced with concern. I'm fine, Maya replied, not entirely convinced of her own words. She opened the door to find Phoebe holding a tube of lipstick. Thought you might want this. Phoebe offered a warm smile. It's not much, but it might help you feel more performer-ish. Maya took the lipstick with a grateful nod, applying it quickly before she could second-guess herself. The rich red color was bolder than anything she'd normally wear, but tonight wasn't about normal, was it? What am I going to sing? Maya suddenly realized she hadn't thought this through at all. Something you know by heart, Phoebe suggested. Something that feels natural. Maya nodded, her grandmother's songs floating through her mind. There was one in particular, a jazz standard her grandmother had performed in clubs back in Havana. Maya had grown up hearing it, had learned every nuance of the melody, every breath between phrases. I think I know what to do, she said, more to herself than to Phoebe. When Maya emerged from the back room, several heads turned. Regular customers did double takes, not immediately recognizing their usual waitress. Diego gave an encouraging thumbs up from behind the bar, and Ray looked like he might cry with relief. You look perfect, Ray whispered, meeting her halfway across the floor. Are you ready? No, she wasn't ready. Not even close. But the cafe was packed, and all these people were waiting for music that wouldn't come unless she provided it. Maya gave a small nod, her throat suddenly dry. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray announced, stepping onto the small stage. We have a slight change to our program tonight. Unfortunately, Vivian is unable to perform due to illness. A murmur of disappointment rippled through the crowd, but we're very fortunate to have another talented vocalist who has graciously agreed to step in. He gestured toward Maya, who felt frozen to the spot. Please welcome our very own Maya Rodriguez. A smattering of polite applause filled the room as Maya forced her feet to move toward the stage. The short distance from the bar to the microphone felt like miles. She could feel eyes on her, curious, expectant, perhaps already disappointed that they weren't getting the performer they'd come to see. Ray squeezed her arm reassuringly before stepping off the stage, leaving Maya alone in the spotlight. The small stage light was warm on her skin, nearly blinding compared to the dimness of the rest of the cafe. Maya couldn't make out individual faces anymore, just silhouettes holding drinks and waiting. She approached the microphone, adjusting it slightly with trembling fingers. The cafe had fallen eerily quiet. Maya cleared her throat. Good evening, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. She winced at how the microphone amplified her nervousness and tried again. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to sing a song my grandmother taught me a long time ago. Maya nodded to Diego, who had queued up a simple backing track on the cafe's sound system. Just piano and light percussion, nothing fancy. The first notes drifted through the speakers, and Maya closed her eyes, finding the rhythm in her body. When she opened her mouth to sing, the first note came out weak and uncertain. Maya faltered for a moment, almost ready to apologize and flee the stage. But then she thought of her grandmother, how she always said that music wasn't about perfection but about feeling. Maya took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and started again. This time her voice found its strength. The lyrics flowed like water, a story about moonlight and chance encounters, about paths crossing and hearts connecting. It was an old song, but Maya made it her own, infusing each word with genuine emotion. By the second verse, she dared to open her eyes. The cafe had fallen completely silent. Forks hovered midair. Conversations paused, all attention fixed on the stage. In the back corner, an older man in an expensive-looking suit had stopped typing on his laptop to listen, his expression unreadable. Maya's confidence grew with each passing note. She allowed herself to sway slightly with the music, let her voice explore the higher ranges that she'd been too timid to attempt at first. The song spoke of longing and hope, themes that resonated deeply with her own life. Perhaps that's why it felt so natural to perform it now. As she approached the final chorus, Maya spotted Dr. Thompson, her regular customer, beaming at her with what looked like pride. Next to him, a young couple held hands across their table, completely enchanted. Even the usually bustling kitchen staff had paused their work to listen from the doorway. The song ended with a gentle, lingering note that Maya held just a beat longer than necessary, letting it fade naturally into the silence of the room. For one terrifying moment, there was no reaction at all. Just Maya, standing awkwardly on the stage, wondering if she'd made a complete fool of herself. Then applause. Not just polite, obligatory clapping, but enthusiastic, genuine applause that rippled through the cafe like a wave. Someone in the back whistled appreciatively. Dr. Thompson stood up, prompting others to follow suit in a standing ovation. Maya blinked in surprise, a flush spreading across her cheeks. This wasn't the reaction she had expected, not at all. She gave a shy bow, unsure of the proper protocol. "Thank you," she said into the microphone, her voice steadier now. "Thank you so much." Ray bounded onto the stage, his face split with a wide grin. "Wasn't she amazing, folks? Maya Rodriguez." The applause swelled again. "And she's going to sing another song for us after a short break." Maya shot Ray a panicked look, but he just winked at her. "They love you," he whispered. "2 more songs, that's all I'm asking. You're saving the night." Before she could protest, Ray was leading her off the stage and toward the bar, where Diego already had a glass of water waiting for her. "That was incredible," Diego said, sliding the water across the counter. "Where have you been hiding that voice all this time?" Maya gulped the water gratefully, her hands still shaking with adrenaline. "I don't know what came over me. I just sang." "Well, keep doing whatever you just did," Ray said, patting her shoulder. "The crowd is eating it up. I've already had 3 tables ask if you're a regular performer here." Maya glanced back at the cafe. People were indeed watching her, some smiling encouragingly, others whispering among themselves. It was surreal. These same people who had barely noticed her as she'd taken their orders were now looking at her like she was someone special. "I don't know any other songs," Maya admitted. "Not well enough to perform anyway." "What about that one you were humming yesterday while closing?" Phoebe suggested, appearing with a plate of appetizers. "Something about stars and wishes?" Maya knew the one she meant, another of her grandmother's favorites. "Maybe, but I'd need the lyrics. I'm not sure I remember all the verses." "I've got internet," Diego said, already pulling out his phone. "Just give me the title." As Diego searched for lyrics and Ray rushed back to handle customer requests, Maya took a moment to breathe. The adrenaline was still coursing through her veins, making her feel simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. She couldn't quite believe what was happening, how one moment she'd been serving drinks, and the next, she was the evening's entertainment. From her spot at the bar, Maya noticed the man in the expensive suit watching her with interest. Unlike the other patrons who had returned to their conversations, he seemed to be studying her, occasionally making notes on his phone. Something about his focused attention made Maya nervous. "Here you go." Diego handed her his phone with lyrics displayed. "You've got about 5 minutes before you're on again." Ray's pouring free wine samples to keep everyone happy. Maya scrolled through the lyrics, relieved to find they matched the version she knew. "Thanks, Diego, I think I can do this." "You more than think," Phoebe chimed in, delivering more food to waiting tables. "You know you can. We all just saw it." When Maya returned to the stage for her second song, the nervousness had lessened. Not gone completely, but manageable now. The audience welcomed her with warm applause, some people even calling out encouragement. It felt good, this connection with strangers united by music. The second song went even better than the first. Maya found herself getting lost in the performance, adding little flourishes that came naturally, moving with the rhythm in a way that felt authentic rather than staged. When she finished, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Ray had her perform one final song, a more upbeat number that had people tapping their feet and nodding along. By the end of her impromptu set, Maya felt transformed. There was a lightness in her chest, a sense of fulfillment she hadn't experienced in years. As she stepped off the stage for the final time, patrons stopped her to offer compliments and ask questions. Was she performing anywhere else? Did she have recordings? Would she be back next week? Maya answered as best she could, still overwhelmed by the attention. Maya, Ray said, approaching with the man in the expensive suit. There's someone here who would like to meet you. The man extended his hand, his expression professional but interested. Ms. Rodriguez, my name is Elijah Bennett. I'm a music producer with Horizon Records. I'd like to talk to you about your singing. Maya's mouth went dry as she shook his hand. A music producer? Here, in this small neighborhood cafe? It seemed impossible. I wasn't planning to discover new talent tonight, Elijah continued, his voice smooth and practiced. I was just stopping in for coffee before heading to another venue. But I'm very glad I did. Maya glanced at Ray, who nodded encouragingly. Mr. Bennett has a proposal for you, Ray said, barely containing his excitement. I think you should hear him out. The cafe continued buzzing around them, customers finishing their meals and drinks, staff clearing tables. But for Maya, time seemed to stand still as she faced a moment that could potentially change everything. All because a scheduled singer had called in sick, and she had been brave enough to step into the spotlight. Maya stared at the business card in her hands as she rode the bus home that night. Elijah Bennett, music producer, Horizon Records, it read in sleek silver lettering against black cardstock. It felt surreal, like something that happened to other people in movies, not to waitresses with abandoned dreams. The conversation with Elijah had been brief but intense. He'd spoken about raw talent and authentic voice and the kind of emotional delivery that can't be taught. Maya had nodded, trying to appear professional while her mind spun with disbelief. He wanted to hear more, he'd said. He wanted her to come to the studio next week for a proper audition. This isn't happening, Maya whispered to herself as the bus rumbled through the quiet streets. Outside the window, the city lights blurred with the tears that had unexpectedly welled in her eyes. They weren't sad tears exactly, but overwhelmed ones, the kind that come when life suddenly veers in an unexpected direction. The bus lurched to a stop at her corner, jarring Maya from her thoughts. As she walked the short block to her apartment building, her phone buzzed repeatedly with text notifications. News traveled fast. Phoebe, Diego, and other co-workers had already spread the word about her performance and Elijah's interest. Once inside her apartment, Maya kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto her couch, still wearing Lena's borrowed dress. The events of the evening replayed in her mind like a movie. Had she really stood on that stage? Had all those people really applauded for her? Had a genuine music producer actually handed her his card? Her phone rang, breaking the silence of the apartment. It was her mother. Mia, why didn't you tell me? Her mother's voice was a mix of excitement and gentle accusation.
Phoebe just called me about your singing tonight.
Maya smiled, picturing her mother sitting up in bed despite the late hour, probably clutching her old rotary phone that she refused to replace. It just happened, Mama. I was filling in because the regular singer got sick. Phoebe says you were magnificent. She said people were crying during your songs. Her mother's voice softened with pride, just like your abuela. The comparison to her grandmother made Maya's heart squeeze. I sang her songs, Mama, the ones she taught me. She's looking down on you right now, bursting with pride. I just know it. There was a pause, and Maya could hear the emotion in her mother's breathing. A music producer, Maya, a real one. It might not lead to anything, Maya cautioned both her mother and herself. He might just be being nice. Music producers don't hand out cards to be nice. They do it to make money. Her mother's practicality was always refreshing. You're going to that audition, yes? Maya hesitated. The thought of deliberately putting herself in the spotlight again was terrifying. Tonight had been different, an emergency, a favor to Ray. An audition would be intentional, a choice to pursue something she had packed away years ago. I don't know, Mama. My classes, the cafe, we'll all still be there if this doesn't work out. Her mother's tone brooked no argument. But what if it does? What if this is God giving you back the chance you had to give up for us? For us. The words hung in the air. When Maya's mother had gotten sick, when the medical bills had started piling up, music school had become an impossible luxury. Maya had put aside her own dreams to help keep their small family afloat. and she'd never once complained about it. Her mother knew that better than anyone. "Just think about it," her mother said gently. "That's all I ask." After hanging up, Maya finally changed out of the borrowed dress and got ready for bed, though she doubted sleep would come easily. Her mind was too full, her body still humming with leftover adrenaline from the performance. She was brushing her teeth when her phone chimed with a social media notification. Curious, she checked it while still scrubbing. It was a video. Someone had filmed her singing at the cafe and posted it online. Maya's toothbrush froze mid-scrub. With a mix of horror and curiosity, she tapped to watch. There she was, standing on the small stage, looking both terrified and determined in the borrowed black dress. The video quality wasn't great, somewhat grainy in the cafe's dim lighting, but the audio was surprisingly clear. Maya watched herself begin to sing, saw the initial nervousness in her posture, then the gradual relaxation as the music took over. It was strange watching herself perform. Was that really her voice? It sounded different from the outside, richer and more controlled than it felt when she was singing. As the Maya in the video hit a particularly emotional part of the song, goosebumps rose on the real Maya's arms. The video already had over 100 likes and dozens of comments. Maya scrolled through them with growing amazement. Who is this amazing voice? Café Lumiere has the best hidden talents. Getting some serious Amy Winehouse vibes. Raw and beautiful. Is she performing again? I need to hear more. And the comment that made her pause longest. This is what real talent looks like before the industry gets hold of it. Pure and unfiltered. Maya put her phone down and finished getting ready for bed, her head spinning. By the time she lay down, it was past 2 a.m., but sleep still felt impossible. She stared at the ceiling, wondering what her grandmother would say if she could see all this happening. Sing from your soul, not your throat. Her grandmother used to tell her, when you sing from your soul, people don't just hear you, they feel you. Tonight, people had felt something. Maya had felt something too. A reconnection with a part of herself she'd nearly forgotten. Morning came too quickly, sunlight streaming through the blinds Maya had forgotten to close. Her first instinct was to check her phone, and what she found left her gasping. The video had gone viral overnight. Thousands of views, hundreds of comments and shares across multiple platforms. Someone had even created a hashtag, Chuck Cafe Singer. Maya scrolled through in disbelief as more notifications poured in. Her phone rang. Ray from the cafe. Maya, have you seen what's happening online? He sounded breathless with excitement. I'm looking at it right now, Maya replied, still stunned. How did this happen? People love an unexpected discovery. The girl who went from waiting tables to stealing the show, it's a story everyone wants to believe in. Ray paused. And you were genuinely good, Maya. Really good. Maya sat up in bed, pushing her tangled hair from her face. What does this mean for tonight? Should I still come in for my shift? Ray laughed. Are you kidding? I've been fielding calls all morning from people asking if you're performing again. We're already fully booked for dinner service. Wait, what? Maya's stomach dropped. Ray, last night was a one-time thing. An emergency, which turned into the best night of business we've had in months. Ray's tone softened. Look, I'm not asking you to become our full-time entertainment, but would you consider doing just one set tonight? People are excited, Maya. They want to hear you. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of expectation settling on her shoulders. One part of her wanted to hide, to return to the comfortable anonymity of serving tables rather than standing on stage. But another part, a part that had awakened last night, yearned for that connection again, that moment when her voice reached out and touched something in strangers. I'll think about it, she finally said. Let me call you back in an hour. After hanging up, Maya made coffee and sat by her small window, watching the city wake up. Her life had been so structured, so predictable for years. Wake up, go to class or work, study, sleep, repeat. Now, overnight, everything felt shifted, like furniture rearranged in a familiar room. Recognizable but requiring new navigation. She thought about Elijah Bennett and his offer of an audition. She thought about her mother's words. What if this is God giving you back the chance you had to give up for us? She thought about her grandmother, who had sung through good times and bad, who had found joy in sharing her voice even when life was difficult. Then Maya did something she hadn't done in years. She opened her laptop and searched for local voice coaches. If she was going to do this, really do this, she wanted to be prepared. The first step was refreshing her technique, retraining muscles that had grown lazy with disuse. She found a coach with reasonable rates who could see her that afternoon, before her evening shift. It would cut into her study time, but for once that didn't seem like the most important thing. Next, Maya called Ray back. "I'll do it," she said before she could change her mind. "One set tonight." Ray's whoop of excitement made her smile despite her nerves. "You won't regret this, Maya. I'm putting you on the website right now as our featured performer." Featured performer. The word sent a thrill through her. It was happening so fast, this transformation from waitress to singer. Part of her wanted to pull back, to slow down, but another part recognized that sometimes life offered moments you simply had to grab with both hands. After a quick shower, Maya stood in front of her closet, surveying her limited options. She couldn't borrow Lena's dress again. She needed something that felt like her own, something she could feel confident in. In the back of her closet hung a deep blue dress she'd bought for her college interview years ago. It was simple but flattering, with a slight vintage feel that seemed appropriate for jazz standards. As she pulled it out and laid it on her bed, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ms. Rodriguez, this is Elijah Bennett. I hope you don't mind me texting. I've been seeing your video circulating online. Very impressive spread for less than 24 hours. My offer for an audition still stands, but I'd like to come hear you again in person first. I understand you're performing again tonight." Elijah. Maya read the message 3 times to be sure she wasn't imagining it. He had tracked down her number. He had seen the video. He was coming tonight. With trembling fingers, she typed a reply. "Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Yes. I'll be singing one set tonight at Café Lumière, starting at 8. Maya. His response was immediate. "I'll be there. And please call me Elijah." Maya set her phone down and took a deep breath. This was really happening. A simple twist of fate, a sick singer, a desperate boss, a moment of courage, had set in motion something she couldn't have imagined just 24 hours ago. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, noting how different she already looked. There was a spark in her eyes that hadn't been there before, a sense of possibility that had been dormant for too long. "From your soul, not your throat," she whispered to herself, hearing her grandmother's voice in the words. Tonight she would sing from her soul again. Not because she had to, but because she chose to. Whatever happened next, whether this was the beginning of something new or just a brief, beautiful detour, Maya knew she had already been transformed. The line stretched around the block by the time Maya arrived at Café Lumière that evening. She stood across the street for a moment, watching in disbelief as Ray hustled back and forth, setting up extra chairs and talking to people in the queue. This couldn't possibly be for her, could it? Maya clutched her small bag containing the blue dress and a few makeup items she'd hastily purchased that afternoon. After her voice coaching session, which had been both humbling and exhilarating, she'd barely had time to return home and practice before heading to the cafe. Now, seeing the crowd, her mouth went dry with panic. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the street and approached the cafe's back entrance, hoping to slip in unnoticed. But Ray spotted her immediately. "Maya, thank goodness you're here." He hurried over, looking both frazzled and ecstatic. "We're turning people away. Fire code won't let us pack in anymore. All these people are here for me?" Maya couldn't quite believe it. Ray nodded enthusiastically. "Your video has over 50,000 views now." 50,000. People from across the city saw it and started calling for reservations this morning. "I've never seen anything like it." Maya felt lightheaded. "Ray, I'm not sure I can do this. What if they're disappointed? What if last night was just luck?" "It wasn't luck." Ray's voice softened as he guided her toward the back door. "It was talent. Real talent. And yes, maybe some of these people are just here because of social media buzz, but once they hear you, they'll stay for your voice." Inside, the cafe had been transformed. Additional chairs and tables crowded the floor, barely leaving paths for servers to navigate. The small stage had been slightly enlarged with platforms borrowed from a neighboring venue. Proper stage lights had been set up, along with an improved sound system Maya didn't recognize. "We rented better equipment," Ray explained, following her gaze. "Got it all set up this afternoon. Tonight isn't just good for you, Maya. It's good for Café Lumière. This place has been my dream for years, but it's been a struggle. A night like this. It changes things." The weight of that responsibility settled on Maya's shoulders. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about Ray, about the cafe, about all the staff who depended on its success. "I'll do my best," she promised, heading toward the staff room to change. Phoebe was already there, arranging flowers in a small vase. "These are for your dressing room," she said with a wink. "Well, the staff room, that's your dressing room for tonight anyway." Maya managed a nervous laugh. "This is all happening so fast." "Sometimes life works that way," Phoebe said, setting the flowers on a small table that had been cleared for Maya's use. "Everything crawls along for years and then suddenly, boom, things explode into motion." As Maya changed into her blue dress and applied her makeup, she could hear the cafe filling up outside. The excited hum of conversation penetrated the thin walls, along with occasional laughter and the clinking of glasses. Diego knocked on the door 45 minutes before her set was scheduled to begin. "Packed house," he reported when Maya let him in. "And guess who's sitting at the corner table? Your music producer friend. He brought people with him." Maya's heart skipped. "People? What people?" Diego shrugged. "Important-looking people in expensive clothes. One woman has been taking notes on her tablet since they sat down." He offered her a glass of water. "Thought you might need this." She accepted it gratefully, her throat suddenly parched. "Thanks, I'm terrified, Diego." "Good, use it." Diego leaned against the doorframe. "My abuela always said that being scared means you care about doing something right. Channel it into your performance." When it was finally time, Maya felt like she was floating above herself, watching a movie of her own life. Ray came to escort her to the stage, weaving her through the crowd where people turned to stare and whisper as she passed. She caught snippets of conversation. "That's her, the waitress from the video. Can't believe we got in." The stage looked different from this angle, with proper lighting creating a warm glow that separated it from the dimly lit cafe. Maya took her position in front of the microphone, blinking against the brightness. The crowd fell silent, watching expectantly. "Good evening," she said, her voice only slightly tremulous. "Thank you all for coming tonight." What followed was both the longest and shortest hour of Maya's life. She sang 8 songs. 3 she'd performed the previous night, 3 more her grandmother had taught her, and 2 contemporary songs she'd always loved. The voice coaching session had given her a few tips to support her breathing and projection, which helped enormously. With each song, Maya felt her confidence growing. She moved more naturally, let her voice explore different textures and tones, even improvised a little where it felt right. The audience responded enthusiastically, with applause growing stronger after each number. From her position on stage, Maya could just make out Elijah Bennett and his companions in the corner. They were watching intently, occasionally leaning toward each other to exchange words. One woman was indeed taking notes, her fingers flying across a tablet screen. By the time Maya finished her final song, a soulful rendition of a jazz classic that had been her grandmother's signature piece, the crowd was on their feet. The applause was deafening in the small space, whistles and cheers punctuating the clapping. Ray bounded onto the stage, beaming with pride, and handed her a bouquet of flowers that someone had apparently brought for her. "Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible Maya Rodriguez," he announced, which only increased the volume of applause. Maya took a small bow, overwhelmed by the response. As Ray led her off stage, customers reached out to touch her arm or offer congratulations. A teenage girl asked for a selfie, which Maya granted in a daze. By the time she made it to the bar, where Diego had a glass of champagne waiting, she felt like she was floating. "You were amazing," Diego said, clinking his glass against hers. "Even better than last night." "Truly remarkable," added a new voice. Elijah Bennett had appeared at her side, along with a striking woman in a tailored suit. "Maya, I'd like you to meet Lucia Wang, A&R director at Horizon Records." The woman extended her hand with a warm smile. "That was quite a performance, Ms. Rodriguez. Elijah wasn't exaggerating about your talent." Maya shook her hand, struggling to find words. "Thank you. It's all very new to me." "That authenticity comes through in your performance," Lucia said. "It's refreshing in an industry where everyone's trying so hard to sound like someone else." Before Maya could respond, more people approached, wanting to compliment her or ask questions. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations, more selfies with customers, and finally a sit-down with Elijah, Lucia, and their colleagues in a quiet corner after most of the crowd had dispersed. "We'd like to record a demo with you," Elijah said without preamble. 3 songs to start, professionally produced. If things go well, we can discuss a more formal arrangement. Maya blinked. A demo, as in a recording? Lucia nodded. The music industry has changed dramatically. We need to move quickly when we find exceptional talent. Your video already has traction. We want to build on that momentum. They discussed details, timing, song selection, the studio location. Maya listened carefully, asking questions when she could form the words through her shock. They wanted her in the studio next week. They had ideas for original songs that might suit her voice. They saw potential for her unique sound in the current market. By the time they left, pressing more business cards into her hand with promises to call the next day, Maya felt like she was dreaming. Ray, who had been hovering nearby throughout the conversation, rushed over the moment they departed. Well, what did they say? His eyes were bright with excitement. They want to record a demo, Maya said, the words still not feeling real. Next week, Ray whooped and pulled her into a hug. I knew it. I knew the moment you started singing last night that you were special. As the cafe staff closed up around them, Maya sat at the bar, still in her blue dress, trying to process everything. Her phone had been buzzing constantly in her bag, texts, calls, social media notifications. When she finally checked it, she found dozens of messages from friends, former classmates, even people she barely knew, all having seen the video or heard about her performances. Local news outlets had left messages requesting interviews. A blog about the city's music scene wanted to feature her. Someone had even created a fan account for her, collecting and sharing clips from both nights' performances. This is insane, Maya murmured, scrolling through it all. 24 hours ago, I was just a waitress. You were never just a waitress, Phoebe said, sitting beside her with her own end-of-night drink. You were always Maya with the beautiful voice who happened to be serving coffee while figuring life out. Maya smiled gratefully at her friend. I don't know if I'm ready for all this. Nobody ever is, Phoebe replied simply. You just figure it out as you go. When Maya finally left the cafe well after midnight, she was surprised to find a small group of people still waiting outside. They asked for photos and autographs, treating her like an established performer rather than someone who had only sung publicly twice in her adult life. As she signed a napkin for a young woman who confessed she'd come straight from her own waitressing job after seeing the video, Maya felt a strange sense of responsibility. Her story clearly resonated with people, the ordinary person with hidden talents, the dream deferred but not forgotten. Don't give up on what you love, Maya found herself saying to the young woman. Sometimes life makes you take detours, but you can find your way back. Walking home in the quiet streets, Maya reflected on her own words. She had taken a necessary detour, putting aside music to handle life's responsibilities, but perhaps that detour had given her experiences and emotions that now infused her singing with something special, something that connected with people in a way that mere technical perfection couldn't. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. I'm so proud of you, Mija. Your abuela is dancing in heaven tonight. Maya smiled, tears welling unexpectedly. Whatever happened next, whether this led to a genuine music career or remained a beautiful moment in time, something had awakened in her that couldn't be put back to sleep. She had rediscovered her voice, not just as a singer, but as a person. And somehow, incredibly, people wanted to listen. 3 months had passed since that life-changing night at Café Lumière, and Maya still found herself catching her breath at how quickly everything had transformed. She stood in the small recording booth at Horizon Records, headphones pressed to her ears as she listened to the playback of her latest song. That last chorus is perfect. Elijah's voice came through her headphones. I think we've got it. Maya smiled, giving a thumbs up through the glass separating her from the control room where Elijah and the sound engineers worked their magic. Her first single had been released just 2 weeks ago, and while it wasn't topping any major charts, it had found its audience. People who appreciated authentic jazz-influenced vocals with modern production. The music blogs were calling her sound refreshingly honest and a breath of fresh air in an auto-tuned industry. As she stepped out of the booth, Lucia Wang approached with a tablet in hand. The numbers are looking good, Maya. Streaming is up 20% from last week, and we've got 3 more interview requests. She scrolled through her notes. Oh, and that morning show wants to book you for next month. Maya nodded, still not entirely used to this kind of conversation. 3 months ago, the only numbers she'd been tracking were her tips and her student loan balance. Now people tracked her social media followers, stream counts, and download numbers like they were vital statistics. "That's great," she said, reaching for her water bottle. "But I can't do the morning show that Tuesday. I have a shift at the cafe." Lucia and Elijah exchanged glances. It was a conversation they'd had several times already. "Maya," Elijah began carefully, "you know you don't need to wait tables anymore. The advance on your EP was specifically so you could focus on music full-time." Maya took a long drink of water before responding. "I know, but I'm not ready to quit. The cafe is... it's home. Ray and the team supported me from the beginning." She shrugged, trying to find the right words. "Besides, it keeps me grounded." Lucia's expression softened. "That's actually part of why your story resonates with people. The waitress who still serves coffee even as her song plays on the radio, it's a great narrative." She made a note on her tablet. "We can work around your cafe schedule. Just make sure to give us advance notice." After finalizing plans for tomorrow's studio session, Maya headed out into the crisp afternoon. Fall was giving way to winter, the trees now bare against the gray sky. She pulled her new coat tighter, one of the few luxuries she'd allowed herself from her advance money. Most of it had gone toward paying off her student loans and helping her mother with medical bills. The walk from the studio to Café Lumière took about 20 minutes, and Maya used the time to clear her head. Despite the excitement of her budding music career, these walks remained her favorite part of the day, a bridge between her two worlds. As she approached the cafe, she smiled at the new sign above the door. Café Lumière, home of Maya Rodriguez, it proclaimed in elegant lettering beneath the original logo. Ray had installed it the week after her demo was recorded, incredibly proud of his role in discovering her talent. He'd even expanded the performance area, hosting open mic nights for other hidden talents in the neighborhood. Maya entered through the front door rather than the back employee entrance she'd used for years. Immediately, several customers looked up, recognition dawning on their faces. She'd grown somewhat accustomed to this, the double takes, the whispers, the occasional request for a photo. Today she smiled and waved, but continued toward the back room to change into her work clothes. "There she is," Ray called out, emerging from the kitchen with flour dusting his apron. Since business had picked up, he'd taken to baking more of the pastries himself, rediscovering an old passion. "How is the studio?" "Good," Maya replied, hanging up her coat. "We finished the last song for the EP. Just need to do some final mixing next week." Ray beamed with pride as though her accomplishments were his own. In some ways they were. His leap of faith that night had been the first domino to fall. "That's my girl. Your 4 o'clock table is already here, by the way. They requested you specifically." Maya changed quickly into her black pants and white button-up shirt, tying her hair back in her familiar waitress ponytail. There was something comforting about slipping back into this uniform, this role. Here, she wasn't Maya Rodriguez, emerging artist. She was just Maya who remembered that Dr. Thompson liked his espresso, with an extra shot, and that the young couple by the window always shared a single dessert with 2 forks. As she emerged onto the cafe floor, notepad in hand, several regulars greeted her warmly. Some asked about her music, others simply wanted their usual orders. Maya moved between tables with the same efficiency she'd always had, though now she occasionally paused to sign a napkin or take a quick photo with a fan. Her 4 o'clock appointment turned out to be a young family, parents, with a teenage daughter who clutched Maya's single on vinyl. Elijah had insisted on a limited vinyl release, saying her voice deserved the warmth of analog. "My daughter hasn't stopped playing your song since it came out," the mother explained as Maya took their order. "She's a waitress too at a diner across town. You've become something of a role model." Maya smiled at the girl who was blushing furiously. "What's your name?" "Tina," the girl replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I sing too, but just in my room. No one's ever heard me." "That's how it starts," Maya said, remembering her own journey. "I never thought anyone would hear me either." After taking their orders, Maya returned to the kitchen, where Phoebe was plating desserts with artistic flair. The cafe's menu had been upgraded along with its decor, though Ray had been careful to keep prices reasonable for the neighborhood regulars. "Your fan club's growing," Phoebe observed with a smile. Maya laughed, loading drinks onto her tray. "They're not here for me. They're here for your amazing pastries." "A little of column A, a little of column B," Phoebe replied with a wink. Throughout her shift, Maya found herself reflecting on the strange duality of her life. Here she was, taking orders and refilling coffee cups as she'd done for years, while her single played on the cafe's sound system every hour or so. Customers would glance up in surprise, connecting the voice in the speakers to the woman bringing their food. Some found it amusing, others inspiring. Maya herself still found it surreal. During her break, she checked her phone to find a message from Elijah with a link to a music blog that had featured her. The writer had come to the cafe the previous week, observing as Maya balanced serving, customers with occasionally stepping onto the small stage. For a song or two, a compromise Ray had suggested to keep both the crowds happy and Maya connected to her roots. The article was titled, "Authenticity in the Age of Artifice, How Maya Rodriguez is Redefining Success." Maya scanned it quickly, both embarrassed and touched by the praise. The writer noted how refreshing it was to see a new artist reject the typical trappings of sudden fame, instead maintaining connections to her community and origins. As she slipped her phone back into her pocket, Diego passed by with a tray of cocktails. "Your song came on the radio while you were in the back," he reported. The whole place went nuts. Ray was practically dancing behind the counter. Maya laughed, picturing it. "I'm still getting used to that." "Don't," Diego advised. "The day it becomes normal is the day you lose the magic of it." By the end of her shift, Maya was tired but content. This balance, creating music by day, serving at the cafe several evenings a week, wasn't what industry people typically advised. Lucia had gently suggested that her Waitress story could remain part of her biography without actually continuing to wait tables. Elijah worried about her voice getting strained from talking over cafe noise. Even her mother questioned whether she was taking on too much. But for Maya, the cafe wasn't just a job. It was where her two worlds met. It kept her connected to real people and everyday stories that informed her songwriting. It reminded her daily of where she came from and how unexpectedly life could change. As she wiped down her last table for the night, she noticed Tina and her family getting ready to leave. The girl approached hesitantly, vinyl record and pen in hand. "Would you sign this?" she asked. "And maybe, do you have any advice for someone who wants to sing but is scared?" Maya took the record, considering her answer carefully as she signed. "Sing because you love it, not because you're chasing fame. The most beautiful part of music is how it connects us to each other." She handed back the record. "And don't wait for someone to give you permission to share your voice. The world needs more real, honest voices." After they left, Ray approached, drying his hands on a towel. "You're good with them." "The young fans," Maya shrugged. "I just tell them the truth. That talent isn't enough. It takes work and luck and people who believe in you." "Speaking of people who believe in you," Ray said, "we're still on for your weekend show, right?" Pre-sale tickets sold out in 2 hours. The weekend shows had become a tradition. Once a month, Maya performed a full set at Café Lumière, with tickets sold to benefit local music education programs. It was her way of giving back, of creating opportunities for kids who, like her, might have musical dreams but face financial barriers. "Wouldn't miss it," Maya assured him. "I'm trying out some new material. Stuff I've been writing about. All of this." She gestured vaguely, encompassing the cafe and by extension the journey of the past few months. Ray nodded, understanding. "Your best songs will always come from what you've lived." Later, as Maya walked home under the city lights, she reflected on Ray's words. Her life had taken an unexpected turn that magical night, but the real magic wasn't in suddenly being discovered. It was in rediscovering parts of herself she'd packed away, in connecting with strangers through shared emotions translated into melody, in finding her voice in more ways than one. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Big news coming tomorrow. Possible tour opportunity as opening act. Small venues, but good exposure. Call me." Maya smiled, tucking the phone away without responding immediately. She would call him tomorrow, would probably say yes to the tour, would continue moving forward in this new direction life had opened for her. But she would also keep her shifts at the cafe, would stay connected to the place and people who had been there before the spotlight found her. Some might see her choice to keep waiting tables as quaint or unnecessary, but Maya knew better. Every great song needed both harmony and dissonance, both pattern and surprise. Life was no different. By embracing both sides of her world, the stage and the serving tray, the studio and the cafe counter, she had found a balance that felt authentic. And authenticity, she was learning, was the rarest commodity in an industry built on image and illusion. As Maya reached her apartment building, the same one she'd lived in before, though she'd finally fixed the temperamental heating, she hummed the melody of her newest song under her breath. It was about unexpected journeys and finding beauty in ordinary moments, about hearing your own voice after years of silence. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities and challenges. But tonight, Maya Rodriguez, waitress and rising star, was exactly where she was meant to be, living a story that was still being written, one note at a time.